What's up guys, it's DoubleZug. So I've been getting a lot of questions about what reputations to prioritize, what to do once you hit 90 on the healer specs for all the different specs, how to spend your Valor points and Prebis gearing stuff. And because I have finally leveled my Monk to 90 as well as the Priest to 90, I now no longer have an excuse to procrastinate doing the Prebis gearing video, so I'm going to be doing that here. But before I go through each healer and talk about what reputations you should prioritize, I'm going to be doing a couple of PSAs and then a really quick speed run of like where the reputations are and how to farm them. So the first PSA is about the vendors in Nijao Temple. You don't have to unlock these, so if you didn't quest in Town Long Steps, don't worry, you can still access these. These two vendors sell every single Justice Point item and every single Valor item as well as tier, so you don't have to like, travel between all the different quartermasters to see what's available or to buy new items. You can just go here to Nijao Temple and buy everything in one spot, although it's a little bit annoying that it's not like in the main town, and I don't think the game tells you that this exists at any point, unless I'm mistaken. So the second PSA is about Bis Lists in general. So Bis Lists are kind of a meme for healers. There's, varying stat weights for different fight lengths and stuff like that. So outside of like hard breakpoints, not hugely important that you really care about Bis Lists too much, especially given healer loot prio is super low, although that doesn't really matter for Prebis gearing like this. And the thing to mention for MSV is that Mogushan Vaults is like kind of an intro raid. It's not super difficult, and so trying to min-max every single point of eye level for your week 1 is not going to be super important, unless you're of course going for like rank 1 super hard, your guild is pushing super hard for like times or something like that, or you're just the type of player that wants to min-max every single possible eye level out of their gear. The Wowhead Bis Lists here are relatively accurate. I think most of them are really good. I just disagree on a couple of points here and there that are pretty small. The problem with these is that they tell you to get some items that I don't think are reasonable. Mostly the heroic, epic, like one-handers, these are just not, you're not going to get these. It's like a 0.2-0.3% drop chance, not a reasonable thing to expect to get at all. Also, the only real offhand that's good for most of the healers is the inscription one, and this is going to be like probably pretty expensive. I haven't looked at the prices, but if you don't want to spend the gold on these or like the world drop items that are on some of these lists, or the crafted pieces, which are going to be chest and gloves for every single healer, those crafted pieces are quite strong, but they're going to be decently expensive, especially if you're like buying them for launch. If you're raiding like the weekend after launch or something like that, you can wait and these are going to go down in price, so not a huge deal there. But again, you can very easily go into MSV in full blues and like some random honor gear, some heroic gear, and it's not going to gate your progress too much. Mostly what's going to gate your progress is just how prepared you are, how well you know the strategies and stuff like that. All right, so those are my PSAs. Now I'm going to quickly speed run how to get the different reputations before I go through each spec. So first of all, Shadowpan. The Shadowpan daily hub is here at Shadowpan Garrison. I quested here on both tunes, so I'm not sure if this daily hub unlocks just when you hit max level, even if you didn't quest in Town Long, but if you didn't quest, it doesn't take too long to unlock this. This is going to give you a bunch of dailies from the quest giver here that are going to take you to this island. The one thing to mention is there's an NPC right here. I think I'm lagging, so it's not showing up. But there's an NPC right here that you want to talk to, and she'll accompany you on your daily quests. The trinket, which is Blossom of Pure Snow, which is a passive intellect 1-minute crit on use, is quite strong, especially if you don't have the money to buy a Dark Moon card and you don't have like Elk Stone. This is going to be a decent option for basically every healer. The 1-minute on use is really nice to line up with things like Spirit Shell, your short cooldowns, as well as the fact that most of the raids are going to be pretty bursty in phase 1. Having an on use that's deterministic is going to be better than something like a Yulon proc. So that's an honorable mention for Shadowpan. However, again, most of the healers are not going to be farming this too much. Next we have Klaxi. This is the reputation in Dread Waste. This is a really easy one because you should be doing every quest in Dread Waste from 89 to 90. Anyways, because it's super efficient. You're going to get your rep passively here. You're going to unlock dailies in Klaxivest. You should do these as much as possible for 2 reasons. One, the gear from this is going to be really good for most of the healers. And secondly, when you hit Exalted, you're going to get a quest for just a free deterministic epic ring, which is really nice. So definitely do Dread Waste questing, which you should have been doing anyways, and then, do your dailies in Klaxos every day. Next, we have Golden Lotus. You should unlock these just in the course of your leveling. The daily hub is Golden Pagoda, which is going to take you to Golden Stair and White Petal Lake. Similar to Klaxi, this is a really valuable reputation for 2 reasons. Again, one, the gear you get for Valor from this is going to be good for most of the healers. And second of all, you get a free epic neck piece from this for being Exalted. So if you don't have a huge amount of time, I would prioritize these 2 reputations, just because those Exalted rewards are going to be really nice. The fourth one that healers have to care about is August Celestials. This is a little bit of a weird one. If you've never played MOP before, you might have missed it. There is a quest giver in Shrine of Two Moons on the bottom level where you turn in your charms for coins. That's from the August Celestials. You will get a daily from them that will take you to one of the temples. So like Tiger Temple, Ox Temple, Jade Temple, and you'll just have a little daily quest chain there. It's super quick, and Not important unless you have a Valor item from them, but just getting honored with it is important for a lot of the healers because the Valor gear from it is pretty good. So those are the 4 reps that are relevant for healing gear and where to get them. The other reps are mostly going to be like food stuff with the tillers and, you know, just random cosmetics and stuff like that. Not super important. Again, the most important things are going to be Klaxi dailies, Golden Lotus dailies, and then either Shadowpan or August Celestials for whatever Valor piece you need. So now I'm going to go through each spec, but first of all, I want to talk just generally about how gearing is going to work. So first of all, for our headpiece, you have your NG helm, which is, you know, this piece locked in, so we don't care about getting this from like Conquest or Valor. We also have 4,000 Conquest points. A lot of the healers are going to end up spending these on shoulders and legs because we don't have other high-level options here, but you can also get off pieces for PvP, especially if your PvP set bonus isn't great. We have crafted options for chests and gloves, which means we're disincentivized from getting PvP gear in those slots if we do farm our Conquest points. Generally speaking, for our Valor, we're going to be getting, you know, 2 1600 caps, which means we can get like one 1250 piece and one 1750 piece from the vendor. And we're going to be focusing off pieces, again, because we have crafted options and PvP options for the other stuff, as well as the fact that for our neck and one of our ring slots, we're going to be getting those exalted guaranteed pieces, which means we're disincentivized from spending our Valor or Conquest on both ring sockets or our neck piece. We also get a quest from the world bosses when we kill those later on, that will give us boots as well. So again, we're disincentivized from getting a Valor or Conquest piece on our boots. So as a general rule, we're going to be spending our Valor on rings, bracers, cloaks, and belts. Alright, so let's go through the specs one by one, starting with Resto Druid. One thing to mention here is that WoW Sims is actually a decently useful one even for healers, just because it has all the gear available and all that stuff. So, you know, I'm on the balanced Druid sim here doing my gear set. You can also export to Wowhead, which is what I did for the lists that are on my sheets up there now that you can look at if you want to. So first of all, Resto Druid, this is going to be a little bit of a complicated one because Resto Druid PvP set bonus is actually very powerful. The 2 set is the same as the one on the tier gear, which is 2-second CDR on Swiftmend. It's about like a 2 to 3% healing increase. So definitely worth getting this. I think even if you don't get Conquest gear, you probably want to wear 2-piece Honor just for this. Also, the 4 set's pretty interesting here, which is 30-second CDR on Ironbark. This is going to be incredible, not as much in MSV, but later on when you really need tank CDs for tank busters, like maybe Shaw on Thrash or something like that, this 30-second CDR is actually kind of interesting. So there's a couple of options here. If you don't have the money for the crafted chest and gloves, I would just get honor pieces there for your 4 set, and then they get Conquest on legs and shoulders. However, if you do have the money for the crafted pieces, they're actually quite strong. For your Valor pieces for Druid, you're going to be getting the bracers from August Celestials honored and the back from Shadowpan honored. For your trinkets, the healer Darkmoon card's a little bit better for Druid because we don't have a great way to proc Yulon, as well as Spirit also being quite powerful for us. Your second option is going to be either Vision or Alkstone. So next we have Discipline Priest. Again, very common pattern here. We're going to be getting our Conquest gear for legs and shoulders. Even if you don't like PvP, it's definitely worth, you know, just queuing some 5s, some 2s, some 3s. You can even just AFK and lose every battle, and it's only going to take you you know, maybe an hour or something, hour and a half to farm all your Conquest. Very worth it. The eye level boost here is significant. Also, PvP gear now no longer sacrifices secondary stats to get like resilience. For Priest, the 2 and 4 set's not super exciting. The 2 set is just boosting a single target heal when you palm. This is like kind of cool for Sulong maybe. The 4 set reduces the CD of Chakra to 5 seconds. Not as important now because Chakra has a 10-second CD anyways, and during Spirit Shell, it reduces the mana cost of your Flash Heal by 50%. That 50% mana reduction on Flash Heal for Spirit Shell is actually kind of interesting, but I don't think it's worth dropping the stats we get from the crafted chest and gloves. So you want to be running crafted chest and gloves, PvP, legs, and shoulders. When it comes to spending your Valor, I would get the bracers from August Celestials and the ring from Golden Lotus honored. These aren't the greatest stats for Discipline, but it's really nice you can share these across Discipline and Holy Priest, and again, getting that ring and then an off piece is definitely worth it, as well as the extra Spirit on these items being decent for DPS. For weapons, the Great Staff is actually perfect. It has Crit Mastery, which is our best stats anyway, so you definitely want to run this 2-hander, especially if you can't afford the Inscription offhand. For trinkets, Relic of Yulon is insane for Discipline, unfortunately, so you do want to shell out some gold for this if you can. Vision is also incredible. However, if you don't have a Darkmoon card, you can also get the Shadowpan trinket, which is going to be really solid for Discipline Priest. Intellect, insane. Crit on use, insane. 1 minute lines up with Spirit Shell, very powerful. Holy Priest is going to look very, very similar to Discipline, except we're going to be running a little bit higher Spirit than Discipline. We still want our PvP legs and shoulders. We still want the crafted gear on chests and gloves. And we still are going to grab the bracers from Celestials and the ring from Golden Lotus. So really nice here. We can use a very similar gear setup for both specs. For trinkets for Holy, I would still run Yulon if you have the gold for it. You're going to be running Solace, so you have options to proc this, and Intellect is just incredible. However, if you don't have the gold for this, Chi-Ji is also a really solid option. Second trinket is going to be Alkstone or Vision. However, again, if you do get the Shadowpan trinket for Discipline, that's still a totally fine trinket for Holy Priest. For Restoration Shaman, it actually differs very significantly from the Wowhead list because the Wowhead list is prioritizing Spirit a little bit more highly than I would prioritize it. So this list heavily stacks Haste, and you can see down here only has like 1600 Spirit. So if you don't want to play that way, if you're uncomfortable playing the Telluric Current style with super high Haste, and you want to go a little bit higher Spirit, you can just use the Wowhead list and it's going to get you there. But this is what I would run. So first of all, you want to get your PvP legs and shoulders. The thing to notice here though that's super important is that you want to get the Elemental shoulders and the Restoration legs. The PvP healing set bonus, basically useless in PvE. It's grounding, totem CD, and then Spirit Walker's Grace making you kick immune. So doesn't matter for healing at all. So we go for the Ellie shoulders because they have better stats. We do want Lifekeeper's crafted gear for chest and gloves. For trinkets, I would run Yulon on Restoration Druid, but again, if you don't have the gold or if you're uncomfortable going super low spirit, you can definitely run Chi-Ji as well. Your second trinket's going to be Vision or like Alkstone. Alkstone's actually really good because Mastery is so powerful, and you can reforge some of it to Haste as well. For the weapon, I would go the Haste Crit two-hander, and for Valor, you're going to want the Bracers from August Celestials. These are Crit Haste, great stats, and then you want the Klaxi Belt, which is Haste Mastery, also really great stats. So Celestials and Klaxi for Resto Shaman. For Mistweaver, we're going to have a slightly non-standard setup here where we do not get our Conquest legs and shoulders, because you can see the PvP gear here is like not great stats, Spirit Mastery, plus these set bonuses are totally useless in PvE. So instead, we're going to opt to get Conquest off pieces. There's also really awesome options from Heroics for Mistweaver with these shoulders, Spirit Crit plus a socket, perfect, and then the legs, which are also Spirit Crit plus a socket, which is, again, perfect. So for PvP, I'd recommend getting the Cloak, which is Spirit Crit, perfect stats, and the Bracers, which are also Spirit Crit, which are perfect stats. And then for Valor items, we have two really powerful options, which have our perfect stats in Levin Circle of Hope, which is Golden Lotus Honored, Spirit Crit, and then the Belt from Klaxi, which is also Spirit Crit. Also, a nice bonus here that you don't have to do any extra factions you wouldn't be doing anyways. It's just Golden Lotus and Klaxi, which you're going to be farming for Exalted. So super easy for Mistweaver on the reps here. For trinkets, I'm going to be running Yulon on Mistweaver, but Chi-Ji is also just fine if you don't want to sweat with like CJL and She-Wave and stuff to try to proc Yulon. But if you are sweating, Yulon's going to be significantly better. The major difference between this setup and the Wowhead one is that I'm not going for that second haste breakpoint on Rem, which could potentially be a mistake. I'm significantly higher in crit and a little bit higher in spirit than this setup, so your mana is going to be super, super comfortable in this setup, but you're going to be missing a significant amount of that rem healing, and also my mastery is a little bit higher than this setup. So honestly, not sure which one is correct, to be honest, but both of them have the same Valor items. So either way, whichever setup you go for, you're going to be getting the same Valor items. You just might run like crafted plus some different PvP pieces if you do go for that haste breakpoint, as well as maybe a different weapon. All right, so last but not least, we have Holy Paladin. This is going to be a little bit of an interesting one. This setup is for Selfless Healer specifically. For Eternal Flame, your gear is going to be looking a little bit different, but personally, I would just play Selfless Healer most of the time, so that's what I made this setup for. This is not going for like the haste breakpoint or anything, it's just stacking crit and mastery. So NG Helm, obviously, Prebis for everyone. PvP legs and shoulders. The PvP set bonuses for Holy Paladin are actually really good. The 2 set 10% more on Holy Shock. This is about a 2% healing increase. Very, very powerful there. The 4 set is also very powerful and just like very interesting overall. What it does is it makes your Flash Heal also generate a Holy Power. And this stacks with Tower of Radiance. So if you Flash of Light into your beacon target, you get 2 Holy Power. Very powerful, especially for Eternal Flame specifically, where you're going to be using like the glyph of Flash of Light, amping a lot of your Flash of Lights with that glyph and like beacon swapping around, generating a bunch of Holy Power. This doesn't make your Flash of Light efficient enough to like replace Radiance as your main filler, but it actually is pretty close. It makes Flash of Light very, very, very efficient. So for any like super high tank damage fights, super high spot healing fights, this 4 set's actually very, very good. However, the problem with this is that the other PvP pieces are going to be like Spirit Haste. The gloves in the chest are Spirit Haste, so if you are doing EF and you're going for that haste breakpoint, it actually is worth to get the 4 set, but for Selfless Healer, I would go the crafted plus the PvP 2 piece. For your Valor, there's like 2 options here I'd recommend. The first is just to get the Shadowpan trinket, Blossom of Pure Snow, plus the Bracers from Celestials. This is really nice if you don't have Alkstone. You just use Chi-Ji plus Blossom of Pure Snow. If you do have Alkstone though, you probably just want to get the ring in the bracers, so ring from Golden Lotus and bracers from August Celestials, plus Chi-Ji Alkstone. And for weapon, you want Carapace Breaker plus the shield, however, like basically any of the heroic weapons are going to be just fine for Pally. Alright, so that's my Prebis guide for all the healers. The sets, I just posted them on the sheets on these like second to last pages here if you want to look at them. Although again, Bis List's kind of a meme, and also again, MSV is pretty easy, so I wouldn't sweat this too hard unless you're one of those players that's going to do it no matter what I say, in which case, good luck getting your rank 1s or like, winning the race or whatever. So thanks for watching. Now I gotta stop procrastinating and go do my chores for myself, so see ya.
Swobu, Zug Zug.